Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I have a terrific show planned for tonight. Very excited for my guest. He has been actually someone who people have reached out to me to have on the show. Um, and before I bring him on, um, I just want to do a few quick announcements. Um, so, first off, as you know, if you watched my latest Instagram video. The back wall is finally changing up right here to independent artists' artwork, so I can promote indies while the show is on. I've kept the Simpsons and Mort Walker piece up because I'm just a huge fan. But I got some cool pieces and I left some spaces. Things are changing. Also, don't forget today is Wiz Wednesday. A new Wiz strip is up on both Instagram and Facebook at the Wiz Comic, and you can pick up your copy of the Whimsical Wiz, the complete 2023 collection on Amazon right now. And next week, if you're in the White Plains area, and by the way, only 30-minute train ride from Grand Central and about a 5-10 minute walking distance from the train station, will be Undiscovered RealmCon at the Westchester County Center. I will be there, and I will have copies of this book there for you to buy straight from me, and a few other maybe some extras, Wiz extras there. But let's bring on our guest tonight. He is a writer, an actor, an artist. He does a lot, and like I said, he's been a quite a requested guest. I have been familiar with him mostly by name and social media, but I'm really looking forward to talking to him. Let's bring on Bobby Nash. Hey,
Yay!
hey, how you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm very happy to have you on
Love the
here.
cover of the Wiz Mac book
Oh,
there, by the way.
thank
That
you.
looks great. Yeah.
Thank you. Let me tell you. I don't know. I think I shared the story on the show before, but this book. I have a good friend. His name is Delphin Barrel. Anybody, you guys look up Delphin Barrel's artwork, man. The dude is fantastic. I showed him the cover just to say, "Hey, can I get your opinion on it?" And then we like FaceTimed for about an hour and a half. And if without his guidance, this cover I don't think would have been as strong. He really helped me out with some color choices and things. Being I'm colorblind, so he really helped me out with a lot of that stuff. So I really appreciate Dell's work. Dell's an awesome guy. Please go follow him. Just look up Delphin Barrel and you will find him. Let's just see the comments we already got too. So we got Dylan's watching. Hi, Dylan. And we got the TSL Art Studio. Hello, Michael. Love the strip today and looking forward to tonight's show. Thank you for tuning in, you guys. We're very happy to have you guys on here. So, Bobby, for those who don't know you, can you give us just a quick little bio about you? Like, who are you and what do you do?
Primarily, I'm a writer.
Mhm.
That's what I do most of the time. I write novels, comic books. I've also written audio dramas, some film screenplays, short things that have been filmed. Uh, you know, professional writer, so I'll write almost anything they say. Can you write this? I can probably go, sure. It's like, what's that old actor joke? Can you ride a horse? Yes.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. So I write a lot. That's primarily what I do: novels, comics, et cetera, et cetera. I also do I do the occasional bit of artwork. Mostly like right now I'm on this bookmark kick. I've been drawing like bookmarks, and it's what I do at night to kind of wind down. I'll
Nice.
sit in front of the TV and I'll just draw characters on bookmarks. And um, it started out as one of these little diversions. And well, yesterday I drew my 500th bookmark. It's easy to keep track because they come in the blanks come in 50 to a pack,
Mhm.
so it's easy to keep track of how many I've done. So I do stuff like that. Now, occasionally I do a little acting, although it's that has been kind of dried up a bit, and since the pandemic. But yeah,
Wow. Well,
fun times. But
listen,
that's me. That's what I do. Yeah.
that sounds good. And by the way, I really enjoy the bookmarks. I see you post them on social media.
Thank you.
I get a kick out of them.
The
Uh,
hardest part is coming up with what to draw
mhm.
because I can only draw Spider-Man and Batman so many times. So,
And but that's what people love.
yeah,
They're,
yeah.
they're,
Well, that's
Spidey.
how they get drawn more often.
Mm,
But yeah, it's like I just want something unique. Because usually that's the thing that gets me. It's like, oh my god, I hadn't thought about this character in forever, and so trying to come up with the different ones,
yeah.
is
I
fun.
always I always try to look up when I don't know what to draw. I'm tired of drawing like regular characters, like you were just mentioning. I just look up rare characters and comic characters or cartoon characters, and I'll put in a company's name or something. So I,
Hmm.
I kind of target down. I'm like, oh, who's
Yes,
that? I never even heard of him.
yeah. Saturday morning cartoons is good to Google. I've done all the Super Friends. I think
Yeah.
I've done, you know, different. Yeah, just you find different things and go, oh yeah, I forgot about that character. Or I'll see something on TV and go, I'll attempt to do a cartoony version of that. And,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's great. That's the thing. I didn't know. I honestly didn't know you can buy blank bookmarks to
hmm
draw on. I think that's really cool. I'll have
yeah.
to look
I
into that for some
I'll
fun for
I'll
myself.
I'll plug them. I got them at Michael's.
At
They
Mike,
were
okay, so
yeah. They have white ones and they have brown ones.
nice,
So
nice. I'll,
yeah.
I'll check them out. I'll check them out definitely. My next visit actually might be this weekend to Michael's because, like I said, I'm doing a show and I need to have. I might need some supplies. So
Yeah. Now
maybe.
they're fun. I enjoy doing it. It's kind of like a relaxing thing at night that
Yeah.
I do while I'm winding down from. Yes, I'm winding down from working all day by working at night. It's yeah.
Though I could tell you, I can spend literally 16 hours here in my studio drawing, and the second I walk out, the thing I pick up first is my drawing pad to
Hmm.
relax with. My wife doesn't understand it. There are days I will just sit with, like, even if I'm relaxing, there's a pencil in my hand. I'll have something just like this
Hmm.
sitting, and she's like, "Why? You're not drawing. It's just comfortable,
Yeah.
and I have
Well,
to,
and there's no stress with me doing the bookmarks because
yeah,
I'm not doing them for any deadline. I'm not doing. I have to
yeah,
do this. You know, you can kind of do whatever you want to because sometimes when it's like I have to work on this, that's
mm,
the one thing you don't feel like working on that day. And so it allows me to have some creativity that's
yeah."
not tied to deadlines and things like that.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's great that you have something like that. I think everyone needs some kind of creative outlet.
Hmm.
Even if they don't do creative work professionally, they need some. I've just always said that. I've always taught that when I did workshops with adults, I would explain how important creativity is, creative outlets are. Even if it's just building Legos or
Hmm.
something, just you need something to end your night with. I actually used to tell my students 30 minutes before bed, you're either going to draw and don't think about any of the assignments I told you, just draw.
Hmm.
Just draw anything comes to you. Or get a coloring book and just
Hmm.
color and you will see how, especially the coloring, how much you'll relax
Yeah.
on that. So, actually, when I left my living room, my wife was in an adult, she was in an adult coloring book, whatever it was, food or fairies, whatever she was drawing, coloring tonight, so she does it herself.
Nice.
Yeah. So, uh, you're mostly a writer, as you said, and I need to know about your writing before we talk about, because that's what we're obviously going to be talking a lot about tonight. But before we get into your writing specifically, I'd like to know what got you into writing. Was it you know books you read as a child? Was it TV shows and you're like, I want to do this, or what got you into writing and who were some of your influences?
As a kid, I had this dream of becoming a comic book artist.
Okay.
That was kind of my intro to being creative.
Mhm.
And it was Spider-Man. I was a big fan of the Spider-Man. The '60s cartoon would rerun
Yeah.
when because I was born in the '70s, and it
Same
reran a
here.
lot. And so I would watch that, and that was kind of and I was an only child because my brother didn't come along until I was almost 9.
Mm.
So I was an only child, and you watch the cartoons, and mom kicks you outside to go play, and so the imagination takes over, and usually whatever I had watched on TV, either if it was during the summer, during the day, or when I got home, and that was either it was often it was Spider-Man and or Star Trek. Those were the kind of the afternoon things, and I would go out and play, Spider-Man. My mother used to like, it just thrilled her to no end telling people that he runs around the backyard going, psh, 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 psh. So I'd do that, or I would pretend to be like, a crewman on the Enterprise, and we're beaming, stuff like
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
that was kind of where the imagination kicked in. But I started writing because I wanted to draw comic books, and I realized that, well, I got to write the story to draw the story, and that's kind of where the writing kicked in. And so I was trying to do both, and a friend of mine sat me down one day and he said something to me that I think I was just in the mind of to hear that day, because he made it a point to say something like, you know, you're too much. And he said, I think if you focus on either the writing or the art, you're going to get better at one. Right now, you're kind of stagnant. You haven't grown any, and you haven't reached a level that companies will hire you.
Mhm.
And this was in the days when you didn't do comics yourself. There
Yeah.
was no self-publishing. You didn't do that sort of thing. And I guess he caught me on a right day where it penetrated without angering me.
Mhm.
And he had a point. So I made the decision to focus on the writing because I thought I was a little stronger with the writing than the art. And he must have been right, because in less than 2 years, I sold my first professional comic script.
Wow.
So
And do you remember what that was?
I did the first one I ever got paid for. I was a scripter on a book called Demon Slayer, which was it had started at Emmett. When I was hired, it was at Image, and the writer that had been on there was leaving.
Okay.
And so I started, but then when the book came out, it had moved to Avatar Press.
Okay.
But that was but I was scripter, so I would, because the artist owned the character, and so he would draw an issue and then send it to me and go, here's what happens, and then I would find a way to make it all work.
Was he
So
sending you finished artwork like the old Marvel method, or was
yeah,
there?
yeah. Well, yeah, he was sending me mostly pencils, but yeah,
Okay.
and and then I would figure out what's going on, and I was adding subtext and plot stuff around the action that he was drawing. So, and then from there, I went in and started doing where I could just write the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you find working that way difficult, or was that a kind of an easy way to
It
work?
wasn't. It wasn't difficult. I mean, I would have preferred to have been involved in the plotting,
Mm.
but it wasn't difficult, and I didn't mind it, and I had a good time with it. I learned a lot doing it. Because and he was very upfront when he started. He's like, I'm not a writer, and so he would I would get scans of the artwork, and we would get on the phone, and he would say, okay, I'm thinking something like, and he would just say something. He goes, only make it better. And yeah, so it was a fun gig. I enjoyed the process. Eventually I started kicking in with and helping with plots, and
Mm.
or I would write stuff in the script that he would pick up on for future issues. Yeah, I threw in a little subplot that would just run through dialogue of something that was going on, and he liked it, and it became part of an issue devoted to that. So that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, but it was an interesting way to learn how to do it.
Mhm.
Learn how to work. You know, Learning how to work with artists is always, in comics, is because it's a give and take.
Yeah.
It's a little of the writer, a little of the artist. We all kind of have input, and hopefully what comes out of it is something greater than either of us would have done on our own. And it's always wonderful when, as a comic writer, one of the coolest things is getting pages of art in my
Yeah.
inbox, because it never looks how I imagine it in my head, but it almost always looks better. I mean, and that's one of the wonderful things is when, because your artist is, because most of what I write for comics, like the audience never sees.
Yeah.
Most of it's instruction or information for the artist, and the artist then goes in and interprets all of that and does it in a way that's more visually striking. And they're telling the story that way,
Mm.
so that when I see it, then I can see, oh, okay, we focused on this, and they brought this to the forefront, and that's good. We could do that. Ooh, oh, the art looks great. We can lose this dialogue because the art tells us that information, things like that. So it becomes this bit of give and take
Yeah.
of what goes in there, and I, we always come out with something that looks really good at the end. So yeah, so it's because I write full scripts, and I do it that way so that the artist has an idea of what I'm wanting the characters to say.
Okay.
Sometimes doing it the old plot, draw it, then script it method, you may already have an idea of what you're wanting them to say, but because the artist doesn't know that, they may draw them with a different facial expression. Or so I write a full script, so all that's in there. But I always tell the artist too, I'm not like 100% married to it. If I write a 5-page panel and you think it looks better at 6 or 7, great. Let's, as long as we're telling the story, I'm open to what works, because sometimes you could do visual things. Like a good example, I did one where the character had to break into a safe. And so I just had them go, oh, there's the safe. I know how to break into that. And the next one, it's open. I just, that's what we're doing. But the artist actually drew it in multiple panels where we actually see her. Because in mine, I have her starting, and then I have it open. And he actually drew a few panels where you could see her turn this way. She's turning. So he actually added more to show her actually breaking into the safe. And it was a beautiful segment of art. And so we just broke the dialogue up, and it worked perfect. But that's not something I thought of in the scripting process of let's draw all these panels. So the artist is bringing that kind of thing to it.
Yeah, no, I will say this. As an artist, I've worked with a variety of writers, and there are some writers who are very strict on what they want to see, and other writers who
Mm-hmm.
are much looser, like you, that get to work with the art. And I find, that's a lot more fun as an artist for me. I want the creativity to tell the story as well
Yeah.
in stuff, and having that flexibility, I think, is really helpful.
Well,
Coming from an artist's
yeah.
point of view.
Well, I like to think of it too. It's a team effort. I mean, we are
Yeah.
part of the team, and
Mm.
as a team, it's not Bobby's story when it comes out. It's our story,
Yeah.
and it's the team. I want everybody to. Yeah, I don't want people to go, God, I hate drawing this guy's scripts. I don't want people to do that. I want people to enjoy your job. So I'm loose in places, like unless it's very important. I don't tell the artist, hey, this needs to be a bird's eye view or a worm's eye view, or I don't tell them that stuff unless it's like important. You know, if we're doing Superman's point of view, then yeah, we need to be looking down as he's flying. But if other than that, I leave a lot of that kind of layout to the artist because they're thinking more visually than I am anyway. So yeah, giving them that freedom and allowing them to art direct how we're going to lay the pages out, what angle we're going to see things from. Yeah, I've had more success with that, doing it that way, than me trying to go, no, you've got to draw it exactly how I said. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um. So yeah, and then sometimes, and you write differently depending on whether you know the artist or not.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll get a gig and writing a comic, and I have no idea who's going to draw it. And so when I do that, I tend to write heavier on the information, because I don't know who's there. But if I work with someone I've worked with before and I know what they can do, I can actually write less of that, or let them let the artist play to their strengths. We did this one book where it had monsters and all this stuff, and there's going to be like a 4-page battle. And I called the artist and I said, look, I said, here's what I can do. I can write it. I can write the battle. This guy hits this guy. This guy falls. I can do all that. Or if you would like, you can art direct the fight. And he much preferred doing that. So there's 4 pages of that script that just says fight. So great, easy scripting for me. When it was done, I went back and added the uhs and the ahs and the sound, stuff like that. But, I remember when we get to the point where we're going to come out of it, it said fight. And then it said, whatever the last panel is, this happens. Don't let anybody lose an arm.
Yeah.
They both need to have all their limbs intact when this is over. And it's a beautiful fight scene that the artist just had a ball doing, and did it in a way that's nowhere like how I would have written it. So so you get a lot of good stuff doing. Trusting each other and working as a team works really well.
That's great. What just out of curiosity, what kind of stuff do you enjoy writing the most? Is there a certain genre?
I love crime fiction. I do that a lot in my novels. I'll write a little bit of anything, but I thrillers and like crime fiction stuff. Actiony stuff. Gunshots, car chase. I love killing people. It's in fiction.
In
Fiction.
But thanks for clarifying for YouTube.
But so that kind of stuff is what I'm drawn to. Stuff with, villains and heroes and doing this. But I haven't run across any I don't like writing. There are some I'm better at than others. Like I'm not great at fantasy. I'm not, I can do sci-fi, but it's, I don't enjoy writing sci-fi as much as I enjoy reading or watching sci-fi. So, but I can do it. It's just not, I don't immediately gravitate toward it. Yeah.
Now, when you were saying you enjoy like writing, crime drama stories, how, do you have any kind of background in, no crime not like as a criminal, but you know what I mean, like criminology background or anything like how do you write something like that that's may not be a normal background for someone?
If you hadn't have put that not a criminal thing, my response was going to be, what are you, a cop?
Never been.
No, it comes from growing up watching, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and man, most of our TV was crime fighters.
Yeah.
Stuff like Rockford and Magnum and the A-Team and the $6 Million Man. These are the things that really just, got in my head, and I loved, catching the bad guys and coming up with the things for the bad guys to do. And that's probably where it started. And reading comics probably just solidified it. And so now it's, when I create stuff on my own that I'm creating without a publisher saying I need this, it tends to be something in that crime fighting vein. Like my first published novel was called Evil Ways. And the way I pitch it to people is like, imagine if John McClane from Die Hard found himself in a slasher movie. That gives you the idea of it's got the horror elements, but you got a guy in there shooting people. Yeah. It's like, it'd be like, Jason Voorhees walks out of there, and so he would just shoot him. They're not, So I like mixing those type of things together.
No,
I do that a lot. I mix genres a lot.
No, that's great. That's a good way of telling stories. When I work, I have, if I'm not doing my humor comic stuff, which I tend to just end up, for some reason, every time I write, throw humor into it. Like I could be writing the most serious thing, and all of a sudden there's just, I got a joke and it's just so wrong to put it in. But then everything becomes a humor story.
Yeah.
So
Oh, my books are populated with smartasses.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah, I look for the humor. I've I've done some straight up humor. I need a little of the other stuff in there, but I can make my crime stuff humorous. But I used to do I did a comic strip that I wrote and drew, the little one panel gag thing I did for a kids magazine for 12 years. So all the jokes that had to be kid friendly.
yeah, yeah.
But they were fun. I turned my family into comic characters and made fun of them and had them say my dad is a character anyway, so he became the main character, and I would just sometimes verbatim go, "Oh, he said that. That's funny. Let me write that down." Okay, that's next month's comic strip. What else did he say? Oh, okay. And it got to the point where they would call me. Either my mom, my dad, or my brother would call me and go, "Okay, I've got one for you. Here's what was said today." And okay, let me write. I'll add it to the list, and so I got 12 years out of that. So
That's hysterical, man. I love that.
yeah. So, but I don't write out and out comedy most of the time. Usually it's comedic stuff around horrific things happening.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get that. I get that. That's when sometimes humor comes. It's you know, out of the bad stuff.
Right. And sometimes I think when you have stuff that's like when you have stuff that's serious, having that comedic story that kind of breaks up that can be quite welcoming. I mean we mentioned Star Trek earlier. One of the most well loved episodes of the original series is the triple episode, which is hilarious. And so yeah, you can mix and match that stuff really well.
I got to make a just say a little something about the original Star Trek. I never got into the original Star Trek. I wanted to. I gave it so many chances. I couldn't. But I was a next gen guy. That's where I got into Star Trek.
Yeah,
And,
I love Next Gen. Next Gen is cool.
yeah, yeah. But that was really all I watched. Everything that came after hardly touched.
Oh no, my favorite of all the Star Trek series is Deep Space Nine, which is
Everyone says
excellent.
Everyone tells me that, and
Yeah.
I've watched like 3 episodes of that show, and I just never have time to go back and
Yeah.
watch them. I'm one of those people that I'm always drawing, right? And I
Mhm.
feel like when I'm not drawing, and I turn the TV on to watch something, I am wasting my time because I
Mhm.
could be, doing something more productive.
Yeah. Well, and I think Deep Space Nine too was kind of ahead of the curve because unlike the other shows at the time, there were ongoing storylines,
Yeah.
which didn't happen. The others were you could watch one, skip 2 or 3, and pick another one, and you was fine.
Yeah.
And Deep Space Nine, a lot of it, and very much at the same time too, Babylon 5 was doing that, which was very uncommon for sci-fi shows at that time to do ongoing stories. Now, I mean, it's the norm today.
Yeah.
Pretty much nobody really does much in the way of standalones
Yeah.
these days, and so yeah, so it was at the time it was something unique, but I liked. I'm sorry, this will go into a whole
No,
story.
no, go for it.
But what I like too is that each one of those shows shows you the Federation at a different point. Like the original series is the Federation at a tumultuous point. War's coming, but it hadn't quite got there yet. The TNG era is kind of like we had all that. We've settled our differences with our enemies. The Klingons are our buddies. This is life during peacetime.
Yeah.
And then you go to Deep Space Nine, and this is the Federation at war. The Federation goes to war, and we see how they fight a war, which we had never seen before. Because in all the other shows, it had been, oh, we had this war and it's over. We never saw it. And so seeing the Federation at war was just I thought, a brilliant kind of, commentary on, these people that are supposed to be like all, great and bubbly and lovely. And, we just want to go out and help people. And it's like, oh crap, people are trying to kill us. What do we do now? And so there became a lot. It made the Federation a lot more interesting to me because it had those shades of gray now.
It's
So
interesting. I've never had Star Trek explain that way to me. No, I think it's fantastic. Like I said, I've watched the first couple of
mm,
episodes of Deep Space Nine. Never
yeah,
really went anywhere with it, but
yeah.
it's one of
Sadly, it like Next Gen, it takes a couple
yeah.
to,
I mean,
to really
a lot of shows tend to
yeah.
to
Like
do that.
the first couple are good, but it really kicks in season 3, and
Yeah,
then in season 4 when Worf shows up, it really kicks into high gear.
yeah.
So good. I mean, yeah. Sorry.
No, no, no. It's okay.
Welcome to Star Trek talk. We're
Listen, I'm good with. First of all, I always love to learn about things I don't know much about. Star Trek was not that I didn't know about it, but it wasn't my focus of
Mhm.
sci-fi. I'll be honest. When I was a little kid, it was Star Wars, and then my next really thing I paid attention to was Stargate.
Mhm. Well,
Stargate is my
Star Trek.
all-time favorite.
Yeah, Star Trek was first for me because Star Trek, and then I remember like Battlestar Galactica and
Yeah.
Space 1999 were like Saturday things. But yeah, Star Wars was a life changing. I know I was like 7 at the time, but it was a life changing thing. I mean, it's hard to explain it to people because now we have like a glut of I mean, Star Wars is everywhere, and big budget sci-fi movies are the norm. At that time, this was not the kind of stuff you got.
Yeah.
There, and there wasn't a lot of sci-fi, and Star Wars really opened up doors to that. And then we started getting like, yeah, Battlestar Galactica, which is pretty much the original series in the '70s is pretty much a Star Wars ripoff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to see the differences. But then but as I got older, I mean, there was a glut of stuff during that not streaming, the syndicated era. We were getting shows, and then Stargate you know was a major show for me. I loved the Stargate show, and both. I liked the third one okay, but I really loved the first two.
When I watched the first one, which I enjoyed, I actually am one of those few people who's like a really big fan of the third one. But the way it was explained to me, they were like, it's going to be Star Trek in the Stargate world.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be
It's so funny. I mean, they do kind of follow a formula. If you
yeah,
think about it, Star Trek: The Next Generation was this. Okay, we're going to explore. We'll solve some problems. Great.
yeah,
Deep Space Nine was darker, and then Voyager, they're lost in space.
yeah,
You go to Stargate. The first one is, oh, we have this problem of the week. We're going to go out. We'll solve them. Great. Atlantis was darker,
yeah,
and then Universe was we're lost in space, and it's like, wait, I see a theme.
yeah. Yeah, no, but I've watched those series. I don't know how many times,
Mhm.
over and over again.
Yeah, all good stuff. But
Yeah,
I love that stuff.
yeah,
I wrote the second novel I ever wrote was a space opera type novel. It's called Earth Strike Agenda. It was actually the first novel I ever wrote, or a version of it, which ended up being like a novella. It's only 100 or so pages,
yeah,
and it was the very first novel I ever attempted to write, and it sucked bad. It was horrible. Like every cliche you could think of was in there. The writing was bad. It was horrible.
yeah,
But I liked the story. And also I finished it, which is very important because
yeah,
that spurred me to write Evil Ways. I finished it. I felt great because I accomplished it. And so after Evil Ways was finished, and it took me a while to sell it. I spent 6 years trying to find a publisher for it, and then I found a publisher who was horrible, but had a book. So I went back and I rewrote Earth Strike Agenda. It ended up being like a full length, like 300 and some odd page novel, and the same basic plot, but I had learned enough from writing it the first time and then doing Evil Ways that it came out much better.
yeah.
So yeah, but I never got back. I never went back to a sequel. Most of my sci-fi since then has been shorter pieces. So, or some, like I said, I've written some. I can't write stuff just to see if I can do it. I have to have a reason to do stuff.
Yeah.
And so I met some folks that were doing Star Trek fan films. And so I wrote several for a few of those guys to
Nice.
practice my script writing, um, which is cool too because I knew they would get made and I could see, how what I wrote translated. So that's fun. So I've had fun doing that, and plus I got to write Star Trek.
Yeah.
It wasn't for real. It wasn't real Star Trek, but it was, it was real enough. And so yeah, so stuff like that was fun. But I would do it practice to practice writing scripts.
I actually used to do something similar. When I was younger, I don't, again, time wise, I don't have the time to do it these days, but I plot out these things. I always say, if I had access to a licensed property, a character that I love, say something like He-Man, how would I write He-Man?
Mm-hmm.
And I know, so I have a friend who tells me, "Oh no, you're writing fan fiction." I go, "No, no, no, I don't see that because I've actually pitched to companies. I've pitched stories and I've done things. I'm like, this could actually legit be something. I'm just playing right now
Mm-hmm.
with a character that I love. I did it with Captain Marvel when Smallville came out. I'm like, if I was to bring Captain Marvel, Shazam, Captain Marvel, into the Smallville world, how would I do it?
Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote something like a 60 or 70-page script that would do that. But it's funny because I can't write I can't write prose. I could write comics. I could write scripts. I have no problem with dialogue. It's when for some reason I can't write prose. I actually have two friends I recently gave an 11-page. Well, I'm at 11 pages. I think it would be a lot longer. The story in prose form right now, just to tell me, hey, do you think I actually have, the ability to write prose, or am I just, fooling myself right now? Because I've always wanted to do it. I've always felt my prose was very immature, and I said, hey, your two friends I trust, who are both writers, give me your point of view. I haven't heard back yet, so either that's good or bad. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
it takes a little while.
yeah,
It took me a while to find
yeah,
my voice with prose because I started with comics,
yeah,
and so it took me a while to find a way to tell stories that didn't sound hackneyed or this is just all to not be awful. It
yeah.
took a while.
And I also don't want it to change because I'll read something like I'll read Tolkien and I'll be like, okay. And then because Tolkien's in my head, I get very descriptive, like
Mm-hmm.
he would. And then I'll go read someone else, and it's way different. So then when I'm typing, it's like I'm changing
Yeah.
different voices, and I'm like,
Yeah, it's a hard thing to turn off. Yeah, but eventually, your brain, you do it enough, your brain starts to go, okay, I like this bit of what this guy does. I like this bit of what this writer does, and you just grab those tidbits, and it becomes you. You come up with ways to write that's comfortable to you. And sometimes where people will recognize it's you because you're writing a way. I mean, because you could write like you and I could write the same story.
mm,
We could both be given the exact same plot, and we go off and we write it, and you're going to end up with two very different stories because we have different backgrounds,
yeah,
we have different points of view, we have different frames of reference, we have different styles. Not to say that one's good and one's bad, they're just different because how each of us writes and how each of us deals with our characters would be unique to us.
yeah,
And that was the hard thing for me too, because I was the same way. It's like, oh, I'm reading these people. I like how these guys write. I've got to write that way.
yeah,
Or, I remember when I started Evil Ways, I thought because I was reading a lot of books that had chapters that every chapter seemed to be the same number of pages. I was like, okay, chapters have to be that big. And the problem I was having was the story was not working because I was padding to reach this arbitrary number that I thought was it has to be
Yeah.
X number of pages. And then I picked up a James Patterson novel and I was like, this chapter's 2 pages. Wait a minute. And so when I realized that chapters can be however long they need to be, I could go in and I started chopping things up and working around, and suddenly I found something that worked for me because I work better with smaller chapters, 4, 5, 6 pages, as opposed to these 15, 20 page
Yeah.
chapters. But discovering that, I learned what worked for me, and that helped me, going forward. That I could just write until I felt like, oh, excuse me, that I could feel like this chapter is done, and
Yeah.
then But back to your point of about fan fiction and all, I do write other people's characters. I do
Yeah.
write licensed characters, media tie-in stuff. I write corporate characters too. Characters I don't own them. Um, and the biggest difference between because people always throw out the fan fiction thing. The truth is when you do it officially, there's a lot more rules
Yeah.
than if you're doing fan fiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't marry characters off. You can't cut off Zorro's arm. You know, you can't kill Spider-Man unless you've got a way for him to be alive at the end of it. Oddly enough, I hate that this keeps going back to Star
Yeah.
Trek, but I explain it to people in talks like this. This is how writing media tie-in and characters I don't own. This is how it works. In the original Star Trek series, almost every episode starts with everybody's on the bridge of the Enterprise. The Enterprise is flying through space. Everybody's happy. They're laughing. Life is good. Oh no, some crap happens. We have to deal with it. And at the end of the story, the Enterprise is flying through space. Everybody's on the bridge. They're laughing. They're happy. That's writing characters you don't own.
Yeah.
The beginning and the end, you get the characters in this position, you return them exactly like you found them, but then you get to do all kind of cool stuff with them in the middle. And so, but every licensed or company owned character I've ever worked on comes with a laundry list of do's and don'ts, and the don'ts is always a longer list. One, because either they've gotten that before, or they don't want you making changes to the character. It's all the perception of change. And because the people who own the characters, their job is to safeguard the characters. So when you're writing Zorro, for example, the people at Zorro Productions, their job is to make sure that Bobby doesn't screw up Zorro. And that could be by saying you can't do that plot, or Zorro wouldn't do that, or sometimes it could be, sorry, the TV show's doing that. You can't do that. So there's a lot of that stuff where their job is to protect.
Yes.
They're not shutting down stories because they're bad or anything like that. It's just protecting their brand. And say when you're doing fan fiction, Zorro can fall in love, go off, get married, have a kid, and all this stuff you can do, or you can put two characters together, put your, whatever characters you're shipping that week, put them together in a story and life. But the companies won't let you do that. And a lot of people don't understand that, because I get questions a lot about meeting writers at conventions or whatnot, and they're like, man, I hate what they're doing with Spider-Man. If I was writing Spider-Man, I would. And they list off all this stuff that you're sitting there going, Marvel and Disney will never, ever, ever, ever let you do what you just said.
Yeah.
It's, you have to, so you have to, it's a learning curve again. You have to know the business that you're writing in. So when you're writing other people's characters, I already know, don't pitch these type of stories.
Yeah.
That'd be like me saying, hey, I'm gonna write a whiz story for you. Okay, the first thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna cut one of his legs off. unless I could find a way to magically reattach it before the end of the story,
Yeah.
I'm sure you would go, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right, actually. But speaking of Zorro, you have written multiple Zorro stories.
Two
Oh,
so
two.
far.
Okay. And were you in the Zorro exploits book?
I am in Zorro's Exploits. That was my first one. I'm in that. I wrote a story called Fox Hunt.
Fox Hunt. Okay, I'm gonna look this up.
Yep.
Because the reason I have this book, this copy, this is my contributor copy. I illustrated 2
Mhm.
stories in there, and the new one that we'll talk about in a moment. I illustrated 1 story.
So
Um,
did I.
oh, that's right, you did. That's right. I saw your name in the both writer and artist,
Mhm.
right?
Thanks to those bookmarks.
Page 209. I just want to see.
hmm
Uh,
Yeah, I wrote a story called Fox Hunt. It's about while you're looking it up, I'll tell. It's about a guy who is a very excellent swordsman, and he has been traveling the world, uh, challenging the world's best swordsmen and women to duels because he wants to be the best. And he keeps hearing all these stories about this masked man in California who is supposedly the one of the world's best swordsmen. And so he comes to California to seek out and find Zorro.
that actually sounds awesome. I'll tell you, I haven't read every story in here yet. I've read a few, but I do want to get to all of them. That one sounds really great. Um, I pick it up when I get a chance.
Mhm.
This actually is my my truth that I flip through and I read every now and then. I try to keep it as nice as possible
Mhm.
because it's one of the it's the first time I got to work on Zorro,
Yep.
who has been like one of my all time favorite fictional characters, and I just love the character so much.
Mhm.
I want to keep my copy as like untouched as possible. It's just
Yeah.
a little.
Well, I on my it's hard to see as cluttered as it is, but somewhere on that shelf back there is a paperback and a hardcover version.
Oh, okay.
So I got one of those for my shelf, and
Yeah.
yeah. But no, that was fun. I had done some other work for Audrey and Rich at
Yeah.
Bold Venture. I had done some stuff for the Pulp Adventure magazine,
Which
and
I
in talking with them, I had mentioned
this is
that
cool.
hey, yeah,
Are you in this one?
I am not in that one.
Okay. If you
Uh,
guys want to pick it up, though, I did illustrate an American Crusade.
oh, nice. Yeah, and so I was talking to them, and we were just talking. And I said, "Well, if you ever need a Zorro story, you
Mhm.
know, I'm interested." And so they're like, "Oh, okay," and so when they came around to putting Zorro's exploits together, Audrey reached out and asked if I was still interested. And I said, "Sure." And so they sent me the Bible again with all those do's and don'ts, and you probably got it too. You can't
I
do this,
got
yeah.
I got a certain thing. It
And
has to
there's
be a certain. I had a certain. For artists, it's different. For us, it
yeah,
was you can only use this look as Zorro. You
right.
cannot do these characters from. At that
hmm
point, like none of the Antonio Banderas stuff.
right.
No character.
Because those are different licenses.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
gets really weird because like I run into this too because certain things that are public domain, like
Mhm.
you could write Sherlock Holmes because Sherlock Holmes is public domain. And so, but then you write a Sherlock Holmes story, and then people go, "Well, you obviously don't know Sherlock Holmes. Why didn't you use this character?" And I was like, "Because that character's from a movie that is not public domain, and
Exactly.
I don't have the rights to that character." That kind of so with Zorro, yeah, there was a list of do's and don'ts where we had the license for this batch of Zorro, and it's multiple Zorros. Like there
Yeah.
were TV versions, the book versions, there were a lot of different versions, but we were all able to, and the version I write is I just went and reread the original Zorro stories because they were short stories, and I read those.
Yeah.
So I'm writing that version, like the literary version. And so I wrote a story. They liked it, thank God. And it came out, and I was thrilled. It wasn't the first media tie-in stuff I had done, but it was cool. Like I said, I'm a big fan. I loved Zorro as a kid. I'd seen some of the reruns of like the Guy Williams series would air like during the summer when you're home during the day, and it would air on those UHF channels or VHF, whatever the upper channels were. And so I'd seen some of those, obviously stuff like that. I'd seen a movie here and there. The Antonio Banderas movie came out the year I graduated high school,
Okay.
and I loved that movie. I was so disappointed we only got two. I would have loved to have seen more from him.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and so I'm familiar with the character. I've seen, and I also love the Alex Toth Zorro comics, which are fantastic.
I got my book behind me. I flipped through it.
Hmm.
The second Audrey told me I could work on this and I'll get a story. All I did for an entire month, well, even before I even knew I had a story to write, I did nothing but watch Zorro stuff, just to get like engulfed in the character, and then I made sure to pull out my Alex Toth book, and I started rereading it, but then I stopped because all I did was look at Toth's work.
Yeah.
Because honestly, he's one of my all-time favorites. I can talk about.
But isn't it great that you could be watching TV or
Yeah.
reading a comic and go, "What are you doing?" Research.
Exactly.
I'm working. Because I did the same thing. I went back and I watched and I reread some, and I read, like I said, I was reading the stories because they had been reprinted. I was reading some of the stories, and so that was fun. And it's always cool because like I also wrote a Lone Ranger story, so I spent like a week. Watching Lone Ranger episodes. I'm like, what are you doing? Research.
I'm on Tubi so much, and I've watched Lone Ranger on that, like Lone Ranger and Zorro.
Yeah, and then the other one that I spent a lot of time watching, I got to write the Green Hornet. And so when I did my first Green Hornet, which I think was my first media tie-in, was a Green Hornet story. And at the time, you couldn't find Green Hornet anywhere. It wasn't like now you can find it online. It's on YouTube. Like MeTV plays it. Back when I got that gig, it was nowhere. And so I had to creatively find a copy to watch so I could, because I had to research them. But so I did some back then. But last year I wrote a novella that'll come out sometime this year with Green Hornet, and so they're on YouTube now. So I just went to YouTube and watched them again. So I watched the whole series, which it's not that long, and just to kind of get back into it. But it was like but 2 or 3 episodes in, I've got the character. I'm good. But you know what? Let's watch one more. Let's watch one more. And so but I love that stuff. That stuff is just, I love those shows growing up. I love getting to play with these characters. I've gotten to write Zorro twice now. I've written the Green Hornet 3 times. I've done a lot of like some of the old time radio shows they would bring, and we did stuff with those. I've written quite a number of those, and characters. Coming out, I don't know when it's going to come out, but I wrote a Remo Williams story. It's going to be out, I'm not sure when. Stuff like that's a ball. And I've written some of the licensed pulp characters like the Spider, Kolchak, and Kolchak was so much fun. Again, a good excuse to go on the NBC.com app and watch Kolchak episodes. So it was stuff like that's fun. It's almost criminal that they're paying me to write this stuff, but it's fun.
Yeah. Oh, listen, it sounds great. And you're naming all characters that I love. And I'm gonna have to start checking out your books very soon. When I start buying a new collection of stuff to read. But speaking of your books, and we actually have to promote the other Zorro book that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It's Swordplay and Romance.
Swordplay and Romance.
I always mix up the way they are, but Swordplay and Romance. And I got to tell you, I will say for my story I illustrated, it was written by Susan. Is it Susan Kite. K-I-T-E?
I think so. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, awesome writer. Um, but what I love that she did, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but her story is based on a couple of episodes of the guy William Zorro.
Mm-hmm.
So all I did was go on Disney Plus and actually watch the episodes over and over again to get a good understanding of the story and the characters, because it was basically, what if this character from this episode came back?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So I just really had to learn who this character was.
Right. Right.
But man, it was. I'm not spoiling it. It's a great story. It was a lot of fun to draw. Um, I hope everyone likes my work. I'm one of those people, I hate my art after I turn it in. So I'm not 100, because I see all my mistakes I can fix.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's always we only see the flaws.
Yeah, yeah. But a lot of people told me the work looks great. That the few people I showed it to, that I like show my work to. So I'm happy with what I turned in. Just personally, it is what it is. But I saw the art. I saw a bunch of artwork already from there that Audrey's been posting, and it looks amazing. They did such a great job on that.
My story has art by Rob Davis, and I've known Rob for years, so it's always a thrill to work with Rob again. And I wrote a story called Revenge of the Sea Witch.
Okay.
So there's pirates, but it's new characters I created for the story. But the story, my artwork for the thing came later. Audrey came and said, "Hey, we still need some artists. I see all these bookmarks you've been posting. Would you be willing to send us something?" So I sketched out like 6 things. Like, I didn't even get a story. It was just like, well, actually, I think later they sent me a story, and I don't remember the title of it now. Sorry. But so I drew like 4 very generic Zorro poses, and then I drew 2 story specific ones. And then I think I sent 3 in. I think she said they used 2. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many they used them on.
Yeah. So that was fun. It was great. I mean, nobody ever asked me to draw anything for print, so that was like, it's like made my day.
Well, no, that is awesome. I know. I got to be honest. I had some medical issues during that time. Otherwise, I would have turned this stuff in so fast, and I would have been happy to illustrate a second story like I did in the other book. But things didn't work out that way for me. But I just when. Do you know Don Smith? He goes by Don Everett Smith Jr. sometimes.
We've met, yes.
Yes. Now, Don Smith is the one who introduced me to Audrey.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Don's a great guy, but like, I have been so excited every time. Well, first of all, I won't say what I said on, to Don, because the language was a lot more colorful than I like to use on this show. But it was in excitement. It wasn't in an insulting way. It was done in excitement that I got a big drawing Zorro. But I loved it so. I just he's one of my go-to characters just to warm up with. So I got lots of loose sketches and things I could have inked and turned in, or just whatever. I would have. I love drawing this character so much. Yeah. I just need to get better at horses.
I did a few bookmarks with a couple of bookmarks with him on it, and when people buy stuff from like my online store, I draw something on their envelopes, and I've drawn him on there a couple times. Usually, I draw a character reminding the post office not to bend this package, but in character specific, like I did like a Boba Fett on ones, and it's like, this package is no good to me bent. And so, but it's become a thing. Like, I did it just on a lark, and now it's become a thing. So I have to do it. And when I walk into the post office, it's amazing. I'll walk into the post office, the mail stuff, and they like call the people from the back because they want to see what I've drawn. And it's like, great. Okay, so yeah. So, so the ladies at the post office love it. So, yeah. So it's fun. I enjoy. but it gives me an excuse to draw. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No. That's great.
yeah.
Let's show off your website here, and show people, talk a little bit more about your work. Um, Now, one of the things,
Oh, I just posted that today.
yeah, I was going to say, first off, one of the first things I see is the Night Watchman
Mm-hmm.
from Big Bang Comics, which
Yeah.
is one of the first, is not one of the first, but is one of the companies I still want to do a comic
Yeah.
for. I want to do
They
pages for.
Jeff Austin and I put this together years ago, like because Jeff was already doing some work with them, and so I wrote and penciled. I think it's like 8 pages, and I wrote and penciled it, and he inked it and lettered it, and it's. We decided that we would do. The original plan was to do it in the vein of like the Batman the animated series, where it would be because page one is actually looks like TV screens,
Okay.
and but we would introduce the Night Watch girl.
Okay.
And so we put this together. We sent it to them. They didn't like it, and so it didn't see the light of day. And so then Big Bang went on its merry way. They ceased publication for a while, and then I don't know. It's been a number of years back now. They decided to bring it back when they did Big Bang Universe #1. And so they called up Jeff and go, "Hey, you guys did a story for us years ago. Do you still have it?" So yeah. So it came out like I don't know, 15, 20 years after we drew it.
Wow.
So yeah, because when we did the Night Watch Girl story, the Batman the Animated Series was still on the air.
Oh.
Yeah, so it finally saw the light. And
Sorry.
Jeff is selling some pages on eBay. So that's what that is. He's selling one of the pages.
Yeah, just very talented.
Oh yeah, and he's actually the one that gave me the advice about focusing on one or the other. So yes, blame him for.
Yeah, I tried to get him on the show, but he's unable.
Yes, and then there's some podcasts I'm going to be on,
Cool.
and there's a podcast I was on.
Yeah, no, you got it. So you keep this your blog up very active, huh?
Yeah, and there's the events I have this weekend. I have a literary event called Nerdy Wonderland on Saturday. On Sunday, we're doing the book launch event for the third book in my Sheriff Myers mystery thriller series. So yeah, I try to keep busy. I try to keep this updated with various news and information.
And I like that. Not a lot of people.
Yeah, and then on the left there, you can see like links to book covers when they're new. Each one is also under its own. Yeah, it'll take you right to wherever. And in each one, I have sections for novels, anthologies, comics, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah.
where I'll be, what I'm doing, groups I'm in. There's my store, my newsletter, my Patreon page, all that stuff.
Let's take a look.
And then,
What can people get from you?
yeah, I haven't updated it in a while. And actually, I need to take the double shut off because I'm out of those. But
The double. Okay.
yeah, but yeah, people can buy various things from me. And not everything's up in my store, but a lot of it is. And then I also tell people if there's something you want, contact me. If I've got it, you could PayPal me, or I can send you a Square invoice. And even if it's not in the store, if you see something you want, yeah, because I don't think I have the new Snow book on there yet. So there's a few things I'm behind in updating the store. I'm a one man band, so it's slow going getting things up on the
I
store.
get you. I'm the same way, but man, I gotta say, I love this cover. It reminds me very movie serial, old school, Terry and the Pirates type of stuff.
Which one are you talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't touch the mouse.
The Lance Star?
Yes.
Yeah, that is James Burns drew that. Fantastic artist, friend of mine. Yes, he has a very Kirby-ish type sensibility to his art. And yeah, that particular story, we had started it. We were going to do it as a comic strip. And we started it, and then things got in the way, and we had to end it before we had to truncate it. It ended up being just 10 strips instead of the 20 something we were going to do. And so I wrote it as a prose novella and then put the strips in the back of the book.
That's really cool. Sorry, my finger just slipped. But yeah, no, that's really cool. I like that. It looks like a lot of your work I would be
Yeah.
picking up.
Yeah, and there's definitely more on. I've got to get put up on there. I just haven't done yet, because there are 3 versions. There's 3 of the snow shorts. The new snow is not up there. The new Sheriff Myers not up there yet. So,
Operations.
yeah, there's our strike agenda we talked about earlier. There's the cover to that, and yeah, some I had box sets. You can buy boxes of things, and I used to do, well, I still do if somebody wants them, sketch cards and commissions and whatnot. So whatever's out there, you know how it is. You're always, you want something, I can sell it to you.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, this is great stuff, though. I mean,
Oh,
you got a
thank
lot
you.
of.
And if you click on, there should be a tab up there that says art. If you want to show them the bookmarks.
Art sketches and commissions.
Yeah. So if you you can see, and I've not put the ones from the last week or so up, but you know. Like in this one, I was on a little bit of a G.I. Joe kick, and you can't draw Tomax without drawing Zaymont.
Either, yeah.
And I had just watched that episode of Doctor Who with the Maestro, so I drew the Maestro. And characters with helmets are always fun because I can draw them better than faces.
And I will say this: Doctor Fate, one of my all-time favorite characters.
Yeah, so I've done a couple different versions of him, because there's different versions of a lot of the characters, and yeah.
He's legitimately my go-to commission request that shows. I have a Chris Giarrusso off to the side here. I don't know if it's too dark to see. Where is it? What are you looking at? I don't know. I guess you can. I have a Chris Giarrusso. I have a what's his name? Fred Hembeck. I have a bunch. Like he literally is my go-to commission piece. I love.
Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff I do at night, and I try to come up with different unique characters like Dick Dastardly and Muttley, and I was watching an episode of X-Men '97, so I drew Magneto. Cobra Commander is another one. Cobra Commander is another one I can draw in my sleep. I can draw him. I can draw Batman, Captain, Spider-Man. I can draw those guys in my sleep. Yeah, the ROM experiment didn't quite work as I was hoping.
It's still good. I like it. I like it.
So
these are just great pieces.
Though. Thank you. And then I try to have them say something that's bookmark centric. Like instead of Wakanda Forever, it's Bookmarks Forever. And like Mr. Mixpilic is going, instead of McGurk, he's going McGurk Mark. That kind of stuff. Very silly stuff that people laugh at. So
love these.
Yeah. So always trying to come up with different characters. Different versions of. I've drawn Spider-Man and Batman 100 times each probably. Or like the Rebel Trooper there. That was played by the guy that played Cliff on Cheaters.
I was gonna say a little.
Yeah. So like the dialogue in his word balloon is like, it's a little known fact that tauntauns and because
I actually did a Wiz strip all about him with Cliff, as the Wiz and Ajax are at a bar, like at a tavern, and they're like this is a really nice place, right? And I forgot what they said, but I used lines out of the intro to Cheers, and then Wiz turns to Ajax and says, "What do you think about this place?" He goes, "It's really nice, but I don't like that we're so close to a cliff." And then the next panel is a medieval looking Cliff and Norm. A little known fact about this strip. Normie. And I forget. I think it says something like, "This strip would be so much better if Harry Potter showed up more," or something like that.
There's a really fun meme. Kelsey Grammer did an episode of Next Generation, and there's a shot of him in that Starfleet uniform, and they put it because in Star Trek 3, I think it is, where the Enterprise comes into space dock, so they put Kelsey Grammer behind the bar in that space dock lounge, and so they had another guy in a Starfleet uniform, but they put Cliff Clavin's face on it, and it's like the Federation version of Cheers.
That's hysterical.
So yeah, and then in Deep Space Nine, there is a barfly who is in every season named Morn.
Oh, more. Okay, I just got it. It took me a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Wow.
So yeah, he is definitely a Norm stand-in.
Nice. I like that. Well, again, another reason to check out the show.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, this is the kind of stuff I do just sitting around at night playing and going, who do I feel like drawing? Some work better than others, but they're, like I said, they're fun. And so it's, and it keeps me out of trouble.
Yeah, no, listen. I love them. I love this idea too. Just what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Yeah, and it gives me a chance to draw characters I've never drawn before, or just, oh, that's a cool character. I wonder what they would look like in my style.
I was actually just watching some old Battlefront Planets
Mm-hmm.
On YouTube. I love that show. But yeah, these are great. I mean, I could sit and look at these all day.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of them on there, so it might take you a while.
But these are great to just. I love that classic Iron Man look.
Yep. So I try to play with different versions, and Fallout was big. The show came on, so I drew Fallout Boy several times. Because I'll take these and throw them out and sell them at cons, and I've sold a few of those, and that was one of the bookmark ones, or the envelope art.
Oh, okay.
Like a World War II flying ace, don't bend.
Yeah, no, these are really good though. I like them. I mean, I'm gonna have to stop looking at them right now. That's nice, but I can't stop. I'm like really just enjoying these.
Yeah, and these were all free comic book day sketches.
Nice.
Yeah, free comic book day. I just sit and draw sketches for any kids and kids at heart that show up.
Yeah. Usagi. I love Usagi.
And the beauty of it is, if I get one now that I don't know, I can just Google it on my phone, and yeah, Spidey I can do without thinking.
Or Spidey. Was it a Hawkeye?
Yeah, that was one I had to look up because I didn't know the character.
Who's the character?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, it was from that was another one I didn't know Miraculous at the time, but I've drawn her a couple times now. So
it's nice meeting you. These are great.
Thank you. Yeah, Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah,
it's like you dug deep for some of those.
No, but that's what's fun about these. I love this. One of my favorite Disney films.
Yep.
Destro, one of my all-time favorite G.I. Joe characters.
Yep. Oh, I love Destro.
All our parts. These are fantastic. I geek out over art all the time.
Yeah, and sometimes when you do them, you draw one. Like I drew Bert, so I had to draw Ernie. One night I did Space Monkey Gleek, so I had to do Jan and Jaina. One night I drew the little guy that sings the Menomina song, so I had to draw the two characters that look at him that go do 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 do. So
I gotta say, I love both you and Sorrow and
yeah. Yeah, so there was a theme that night too, because like the two cat characters, Imres and Streaky the cat. So that stuff was fun. So that's.
Yeah, no, these are great. Let me stop on these.
Yeah, you can go back. Everybody can go to the website bobbynash.com and look at them at your leisure.
I will. These are just so much fun for me.
Yeah, because we go back a few years on sketches and stuff in there, so there's a lot. and I've still got some to upload I haven't done yet. But I try to keep the website updated as much as often as possible. So when new releases come out, things like that, and interviews like tomorrow, there'll be something with today about this up tomorrow, and um, so yeah,
I just posted your link to your
cool.
website
Yep.
in the
Yeah, that
comments.
works. And BobbyNash.com, if you don't remember, want to remember all the Nash news, blogspot, all that, BobbyNash.com will get you there too.
Nice, nice. Wow, man, it's you got so much stuff. I mean, there's so much I want to talk to you about here, and I'm not even sure what to ask because, like literally looking at your website, I can pull out probably any book and talk to you, ask you about it. I can ask you about all, we can talk more about Zorro, I'm sure, or
Hmm.
the Lone Ranger, or whatever. But I think we might need to wrap up in a few. Um,
We'll have to come back and do part two.
that's what I was just about to say. I'm like, we need another like hour, you know, maybe even two, just to chat about so many things. Number one, I want to know more about your writing. You've
Hmm.
you've written so much stuff, and number one, it really does sound up like right up my alley for what I like to read.
Yeah, and I try to do that. I try to write the stuff that I like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and all the characters you've been naming from Green Hornet to just whoever you've named. It's just like, dude,
Hmm.
I mean, and I know we're close in age. I mean, you said you were 7 when Star Wars came out, but I was a year old. So I actually Return of the Jedi was the first movie I
So
saw in the
you've never
theater.
lived in a pre-Star Wars world.
Not
Oh,
really, not really. Yeah, no, like I was saying, Return of the Jedi was the first movie I saw in the theaters without my parents.
oddly enough, Star Wars, my parents were not big moviegoers. And I don't know if it was something that I just begged and pleaded. This was my day. I remember this day clearly. I don't remember the date, but I remember this day. We went out, it was a Saturday, and we went to the theater, the drive-in. There was no yeah, this was the drive-in. And we bought the tickets for that night's double feature. It was a big kids event. But during the day they had it was a flea market. And so we walked around the flea market, and that's the day I bought my first Avengers comic. And so that was the day I was introduced to the Avengers. So then we go out, we eat, we do some stuff, we go back to the drive-in for the double feature for kids night. So the first two movies I saw on the big screen were The Jungle Book, followed by Star Wars. So that was my introduction to movies on the big screen.
I'm surprised you remember the Jungle Book played after watching Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's yeah, no, that's a great.
Yeah, because it was still kind of it was dusk when because I remember we were because it was a big, like I said, it was a big kid thing, and so we were like, I remember sitting on the swing set in the thing watching it, because they had the speakers where we could hear it. But then by the time it ended, it was dark, so you had to get back in the. And my parents drove. We had a van, and it had the console there, and I remember laying in the console with one, and it was just like, oh my god, it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I was 7. I didn't know from cool, but it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
No,
And
once you see Star Wars for the first time.
yeah, yeah, it was it sparked. I mean, I caught Star Wars fever like everybody else. I
Yeah,
had a bunch of, can I have some toys? Can I have some toys? Give me the toys. Give me the toys. Oh my God, Marvel put out that big Treasury comic. I got that. Oh, I gotta have this. I have when Empire Strikes Back came out. I have it somewhere in the mess that is my office. Is the LP, the Star Wars LP,
yeah.
and it's the movie. Like all the dialogue is there, so you could listen to the movie, and it's just and
That's
I
pretty.
wore that thing out.
Oh,
I miss yeah. Sometimes I mean I miss some of the things like booking records, and I grew up loving those things, and yeah. So yeah, So that was
But
that's one of my fond memories. Sorry, yeah.
yeah, I can imagine. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm
Uh,
sure I probably pestered them about Star Wars so much that because, like I said, my parents were not moviegoers a lot.
yeah,
Um, I can count on one hand the number of movies we saw in the theater together. Um, yeah, and it just thankfully I was able to see Empire and Return of the Jedi because I had cousins that were going, so I got to tag along with my cousins because one Star Wars movie was enough for my parents.
I don't.
Um, so yeah, but I got to go. I got to tag along with cousins and see it. So, but yeah, that shaped a lot of me of wanting to do that. First you start imitating it, the things that you're excited about. So here it is. I went from psh, 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 to running around like I'm with blasters and you know
You
and
know,
that kind of and lightsabers and yeah, because Luke was cool, but I wanted to be Han Solo. You know,
yeah. No, that's what
and
I always wanted to do. I wanted that force. I wanted the
oh
ability.
yeah.
But it's funny. I wanted to mention this earlier, but we moved on from the conversation. But you were mentioning Spider-Man playing the,
Hmm.
you know, when I was a kid, my parents had these two trees, and I used to tie ropes around them and make my own spider web. And I'd wear my Spider-Man Underoos T-shirt,
Hmm.
and I'd go out in like sweatpants, whatever, and I would climb in there, and I would do the same thing, but I was sitting on top of a heavy rope, pretending I was on my web, you know, stopping crime, and then, but the same thing. Then when I really got into Star Wars, it was taking sticks, and they were my
Oh
lightsaber
yeah.
or whatever. And
The backyard became other planets.
yeah,
It was same with when I watched Star Trek. Yes, the backyard became these other planets that I could go and explore. And so you never knew. So yeah, stormtroopers are chasing us to this planet. So I'm playing back in the back where we have trees. Okay, I'm on a forest planet.
yeah,
Over here where the sandbox is. Great. Yeah. So it was a lot of yeah. It spurred a lot of my imagination and made me. The first stories that I started creating were myself were stories with characters with the
yeah,
toys because we were fairly poor. I didn't have like a whole set. I remember it's funny. We did this. We were at Toylanta one year, and we were on this panel, and we were. It was like we were talking about the how the toys kind of shaped us. I think they called it Toy Stories,
okay,
and so and so they're all talking. Yeah, so if I played GI Joe, I played with the GI Joe only, and I was like, man, I mixed and matched. I had three Joes, two Star Wars, three Star Trek. I used what was there, and they were just taken aback by the fact that wait, you can't play with those together, and I was like, but I did,
yeah,
and so my two favorite. And I told this story there, and then got to tell it later in a book because they heard it and wanted it in a Joy of Joe book about our experiences, and so my two favorite action figures were Destro from GI Joe and Boba Fett. And so in my head, I started crafting these stories that Destro and Boba Fett were just fed up. Destro was fed up with Cobra Commander. Boba Fett was fed up with the Empire. They steal a shuttle because I had a shuttle. They steal the shuttle and they go on adventures together. And that was what I did was I would create adventures for Boba Fett and Destro to solve. And that was kind of where the creativity I think for me started was playing those, starting out mimicking the things. I'd go, like I said, I'd go out and play Spider-Man, the episode I just watched, but eventually it'd be like, okay, I've done that. Let me create a news thing for Spider-Man to deal with.
yeah.
And so I think that's where a lot of that started for me. I just never grew up.
I mean, I think that's what makes someone like you a good writer. Someone like me a good artist. I mean, because I did something similar where I used to make everything out of paper. I mean, I had action figures, I had GI Joe, Transformers, Mask, whatever. But my favorite thing was to draw the characters like this big out of paper, and I would draw the front and back side of them,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would build like sets. So I would take more paper, construction paper, cardboard, whatever, and I'd build
Mm-hmm.
ships. And then in the ships, I would have little consoles and chairs for them to sit in, whatever. I'd build bases, towers, whatever. And then I would tell my stories, but it was the same thing like you.
Yeah.
So if I didn't want, if I didn't want to actually play with the action figures, I had the Ziploc bag
Mm-hmm.
of cut out paper figures that I would play
Nice.
with of and I would draw the comic book version of the Hulk and then the Lou Ferrigno version of the Hulk
Mm-hmm.
and have the two Hulks meet, and I would do whatever, and then again I'd do Star Wars characters, Batman, whatever it was. And then all the characters would just come out, and whoever I needed at any point in my playtime would come out of that Ziploc bag, and and the stories would go on.
I had one of those great aha moments for me as a kid. Remember at the end of when you would go out of the supermarket, they had you put the quarter in, you turn it, and it shoots out the little egg,
Yeah.
and you unscrew the top, and you the day I learned that if you take the lid and shove it into the egg part, that your action figures fit perfectly, and it became a little ship for them, like a little solo speeder. And suddenly I had a fleet of ships, and so I could decorate the egg. Oh, it's great.
That is cool. I don't think I ever did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's that necessity thing. We
Yeah.
learn, what works, what doesn't, and
Yeah.
yeah. So my problem is I just never grew up,
Yeah.
much to my family's dismay. Like my family did not get the whole writing and drawing. They thought it was it should be a hobby, something you should have grown out of that by the time you get out of high school. Was kind of their thinking.
You know what? I think that's a generational thing.
Yeah.
My parents were very supportive of my art, but it still had, you should have something that you'll make money doing.
Yeah, it took
Yeah.
them a while. And once they crossed that threshold, they were great, But
Yeah.
and I think part of it was once they started making money, and then it was like, wait a minute, this is a job, But and then once stuff came out, books are getting published, and like somebody hired me. It wasn't me doing it myself. Then it became something that okay, I see what he's doing. It's and then they became proud parents, and they were telling people and talking up the books, and which is awesome. I was happy to have the support, but it's just, and I got all kind of stories I could do that, but we'll do that. We'll say that for another time.
Because we're hitting an hour and a half, and
yeah, because I can talk all night if you let me.
Listen,
So.
I could. I once did a show that was almost 4 hours long, but here's the thing: my studio doesn't have air conditioning, and it's very hot out in my area right now.
No,
so,
I have AC, so I'm good.
Yeah.
But no, my top one, I did a little over 5 hours with Brian K. Morris on his show once.
Wow.
He's like, "How long do you want to stay?" And I was like, "I'll stay as long as people are asking questions in the comment section." And at the 5-hour mark, he's like, "I'm ready to go to bed." So we ended it, and then he and I talked for an hour after we were done.
That happens a lot. That happens. A lot.
So, so I'll talk all night if you let me. So you have to just at some point go, "Shut up."
Yeah, no. Well, listen, I will guarantee you, specifically in the winter when I can keep these windows open and I get my nice cold air. I have 3 fans going right now, and I keep my door closed so my cat doesn't come in and interrupt
Right.
the show. So, but yeah, listen. I first of all, I will ask you to hang out backstage in a moment. But listen, thank you for coming on. Thank you for chatting, dude. So much cool information. Just a lot of fun talking with you. I seriously, you got to come back. We got to
Absolutely.
And yeah, we definitely have to chat more. So,
Absolutely. I will be happy to do it.
Awesome.
This was fun. I've had a good time, so thank you. Yes.
I'm glad you did. So before I drop you backstage, is there anything else you want to let the audience know?
I'm all over social media. Come find me. Say hello. I do a lot of events convention, whatnot. If you're mostly, I'm in the South. I don't get to travel much just because of other obligations, and so I don't get to do a lot of like I'd like to. But come up, say hello. I'm fairly approachable, I think. Yeah, if you contact me, I will answer eventually. But yeah, say hello.
And just about this weekend, where are you going to be again?
On Saturday, I am at Nerdy Wonderland, which is in Avondale Estates, Georgia,
Sounds fun.
which is right off of 285, near in that Decatur-ish area at the 78 285 area. That's the general area. I'm there. It's at a bar. We're going to be there from 11 o'clock Saturday morning until 6 o'clock Saturday night. So there's going to be stuff outside, arts, crafts, etc. Inside, they're going to have an author alley, so there will be several authors there. So that should be fun. And then on Sunday, I will be in Monroe, Georgia, um, doing at the Monroe Walton Center for the Arts, and we are doing a book launch party for Standing on the Shadows, which is the third Sheriff Myers book. And if I was smarter, I would have one here to hold up. But that is the book is out now, but we're doing a launch party where I'll have a bunch of them, and I'll have the previous books, and we'll play games and make talk, and so it's like from 2 to 4. It's a little short thing, but we just go, we have fun, we sell some books, gab a bit, and that's my weekend. Then next weekend I have the weekend off, which is nice because I've been on the road for the last 4 or 5 weeks,
Wow.
and I've got stuff scheduled. July is my only month that's got time off. It's August, September, Dragon Con's coming up. That's a biggie. Lots to do. Yeah. So, but I love doing the cons. I love doing that stuff, getting out and, because how it is as an artist, you're home alone
Yeah.
in a room by yourself doing, and I can only talk to me so long.
But I'm not going to lie, I kind of like the solitude quite a bit. I'm not anti-shows. I'm doing a few shows. I'm going to get back into it next year. This year is really me building product so I can have stuff for next year. But I don't know. There's something about being alone in your own world.
Yeah. Well, for the work part,
yeah,
absolutely. I don't work well when there are other people around. But I do enjoy I don't enjoy the physical, like setting it up, tearing it down. I don't enjoy that because if you've seen my tape, I got a lot of crap. Shouldn't call it crap. That's bad salesmanship. We got a lot of books. I got a lot of stuff that you need to buy, so I don't have to take it home. But yeah, it just But I enjoy getting out and talking to people, because I don't get to do it that much. I enjoy getting out and meeting other creative people is also very cool because it kind of sparks a little creative juice in you, So yeah. But that's where I'll be this weekend. So
that sounds great, and I wish you a lot of luck at that show.
Thank you.
So I'm going to drop you backstage. Just hang out for a minute. I'll do my wrap up.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate
My pleasure.
All right, guys. So that was my talk with Bobby Nash. Listen, awesome. Had a lot of fun. Great guy. Definitely has to come back. If you're in his area of Georgia, please go check him out. Go visit BobbyNash.com. You can buy his stuff online. Check out the Zorro Swordplay and Romance book, which you can currently purchase from BoldVenturePress.com. Bobby's got art and a story in there. I got art in there. It's got great stories, great art coming out. Also pick up Zorro's Exploits while you're on the website, where both Bobby and I are in as well. And don't forget, hop over to Amazon. You can pick up the Whimsical Whiz, the complete 2023 collection. There's some bonus pages in here for some other stuff. And if you're in the White Plains, New York area, remember, 30-minute train ride from Grand Central, 5 to 10-minute walk to the Westchester County Center. Next weekend, on the 29th and 30th of June, I will be at Undiscovered Realm Con. I will be there with the kids section in Credit Kids, and I'll be doing some couple workshops. It'll be a lot of fun. Listen, there's a Ninja Turtle reunion. We got some of the original actors from the movie coming. Both the April O'Neils, both the Shredders, I believe, will be there. A lot of voice actors. Marty Grabstein, Courage the Cowardly Dog will be there. Um, uh, there's a bunch of stuff, man. Just go check out undiscoveredrealmcon.com. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook. It's going to be a great show. And I will be back next week. I'm not sure if I'm doing a Monday Night Live draw yet, but I will definitely be back next week with another great guest. And with that, guys, thanks for watching tonight live and whenever you watch later in the future. I really appreciate it. I'll see you soon. Bye.